Thank you very much for joining me here for a short brief on the topic of next step HR, or actually what's your next step in your HR transformation. And very fast answer to that is it depends. My name is Sven Hultin. I come from Zalaris, and we are in the process of business process outsourcing and HR outsourcing across Europe. I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about why we do this for HR. And in my role, I have 3 roles for the group. I work with advisors across the world, the smartest people in our industry, and transform that knowledge into our knowledge and to our customers' knowledge. The second thing I do, I work with engagement, since we don't do marketing. We engage with customers earlier and longer. And the last thing I do is storytelling. So I'm going to start off by telling a fun story for you. This is the only fun story I've heard about HR. And it's an HR boss, and it's a she. She dies, and she comes to heaven, and she meets St. Peter. And St. Peter says, you have 2 choices. You can go to hell or you can go to heaven, she said. Or he said. And she, because it's often a she today, who is a CHRO, she said, do I have an option? Yes, okay. But then I'm kind of curious to see what hell is all about. So she came down to hell. And whoever the devil angel there, or devil guardian, come up to her and said, welcome, welcome. And she looked in behind him. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely stunning. The music was fantastic. People were so nice. And the food was outstanding. And she said, wow, I had no idea hell was so great. Well, you never know. And she said, okay, now it's time to look at heaven. So she went to heaven, and she met the guardian angel there. And she said, how's it like here? It was like, it's okay. It was like good food, okay, ordinary people. And she said to St. Peter, I'm kind of surprised myself here, but I think I choose heaven. I choose hell. Why? I don't know, but it feels better. So she went down to hell. And she came in, and the guardian devil took her inside, and she came in, and the door closed. It was like the land of Mordor behind her. Fires, hot, horrible, terrible people, no food. Absolutely terrible. And she met the very disoriented people who walked around, and she said, you there, over there. I was here a couple of minutes ago, and they showed me around, and where all the nice people, where all the good food. And he said, I think you must have talked to HR recruiting. Now, that's a joke. And the fun fact is that since you're still laughing about this, there's still a lot of things to happen with HR to improve their image. Because HR has going to take a next step in their HR transformation. Huh? Closer, yeah. Sorry there. To take their next step in the HR transformation. I think you lost the joke because you didn't hear me. But if you look at HR situation, now it's on. HR is stuck entangled in a web of compliance and outdated business models. So whatever HR wants to do, they can't do anything. You'd say like 80-90% of HR still battle basic compliance reporting across the whole world. So whatever they want to do, whatever reason they want to do it, they can't do it because they don't have time, they don't have money, they don't have the resource to get out of the mess they're stuck in. And I wrote an article about that next week. So the question is to HR, if you really want to get free, why and how? How are you going to break free from this? And go flying up in the cloud and do whatever you want to do in HR. That's one reason. Another reason is that HR doesn't come across.
I'm back. You accidentally turned it off.
I'll go again. All right. So HR is battling to become a trusted partner for the business. So, and this is another situation where HR comes in to meet the business.
Hey, CEO. Before you continue, hear this. I know your leadership team is concerned. Company growth is bleak. Revenues are at stake. Employee engagement is low. Disruption is all around. The board is worried about productivity and survival in a tough market. Are you happy with today's situation? What if HR can be part of your solution? If Zalaris can solve all your problems, would you dare challenge the status quo?
So the question is, what is the status quo? And the fact is, we talked about this, there's so much thing going on right now, and typically business focusing on increasing productivity and return on investment, as they always have done. But new technology and new mindset for new people create a productivity gap or a capability gap or a skills gap in the industry that we see all over the place. And this is messages for established companies. And the problem here is that how do they close it? How are they going to close this gap? Because you see, the big HR is traditionally focused on cost reduction. The business case they do for their own existence is based on cost. But the challenge the business have is to protect existing revenues, to be more innovative, and to combat those disruptors out in the market. This is for real. You see it in retail, you're going to see it in business to business today. And if you're going to close the capability back, this is your organizational business model, how you make money. You're going to change the way you make money as a company. In order to do that, you need to build new skills in the company. And you would think HR is responsible to close that gap, because capability, skills, sort of has a bearing to HR. The problem is HR do not have time to do that. And bottom line, we know that the employee experience is a driving force behind this. And we say that the future of work is all about employee experience. Engaged employees who actually feel good at work, they produce more, they innovate more, they collaborate more, etc. This is nothing new for you. So this is the defined agenda for the new generation coming in, simply because there's new technology enabling you to work differently. But HR hasn't changed the way they are doing. And HR do not have a seat at the table as a trusted advisor. So if you look at the employee experience, what the new force we're going to do, we did a research about what they want to do. And the funny thing, of all the drivers out there for the new generation, there's all kinds of different variables that are relevant. And all of those variables are relevant for someone. So you can't exclude anyone. It's like building a house. HR traditionally has done the plumbing and utilities of the house, like the water, electricity, and they've been doing that all the time. But on top of that, now they have built rooms over the last couple of years, different domains on top of that plumbing. Like they have a sleeping room, a kitchen room. You can compare that with the different domains of HR, from onboarding, performance management, talent management, etc. And didn't have that. It simply had water and utilities. And sometimes they had to carry the water from A to B. But the funny part for this one is that what the young people do not prioritize as a group, and that is authentic leadership, and that is user-oriented technology, etc. Simply because they assume that exists. And the structures we have in a company today do not reflect the way that the workforce need to accommodate the young workforce. So when we're talking about the transformational journey for HR, what is the next step of HR? You need to know where you are. And most of the companies are here. They have fragmented systems, point solutions. They're carrying in water on their head instead of doing something more business value added for the business. Whatever you say, payroll is not core for the business. Whatever business model you have, unless it's payroll, it's not core for your business value. So if you're going to outsource something, you're going to outsource something that is not core for you. Let go of payroll and do something with it. And what's going to happen in the last couple of years that HR has not outsourced, but they have implemented holistic solutions for master data and talent management, like SuccessFactors, Workday, Kronos, whatever you have. But they haven't transformed payroll. It's still disconnected around the world. Companies are still fighting compliance and reporting in every country around the world. The employees are still unhappy with their experience, etc. So now 60% of HR in the big companies across the world now have these next generation services for the cloud talent management. But they do not have it for disconnected payroll out there. So you can't have a holistic one truth of the data you need. And you need the data to provide what everybody in this hall today talk about, to be data-driven, to provide personalized services, to be more engaging, and to drive employee experience. And above all, to enable HR to look smart and provide facts in the decision-making with the business. So in order for HR to have time, to have the insight, to have the capability to discuss those productivity gap, capability gap, and skills gaps, they need everything up here, especially if you're in a large company. However, that's not the case. So what's happening now, many are buying those point solutions down below without having the rest of it connected. And that's going to be like decorating the house without having the foundational water and plumbing in place. I don't know if you, but I have an old house I've been renovating for 15 years. And actually, the last thing I started doing was the plumbing and the pipes. It's kind of stupid. It's actually where you should start. So in order to HR take that step, they also need to be aware of how they avoid the threats and uncertainties for that journey. And the biggest mistakes for them in that journey, whatever they're doing, wherever they're starting, is that they have a short mindset, that they have the wrong metrics. They're measuring cost. They're not measuring what's going to happen when I have implemented this capability, whatever it is. They have a weak change leadership. Still, after 40 years of change leadership programs, etc., they still don't manage change management very well. And they're not working agile. And with agile, I mean not working waterfall. They have a grand project over 18 months and big milestones. So they need to be innovative, working with employees, working with partners, etc. So this is not my words. This is Everest Group CEO words. So whatever they do, whatever step they're taking, they need to have different metrics. They need to have a long-term mindset. Where am I going and why? And they need to be able to manage change. So my way of illustrating that is that you're going from somewhere, the blue pill in the Matrix movie, right? I'm tangled in the web, and I need to free myself free and get flying to the cloud. Because whatever solution there is for HR, it's going to be cloud-based. If you have it on-premise, it's not going to help you. You're going to carry all the costs for maintenance and upgrades and releases, etc. All the solution for HR will be in the cloud. So the majority of the customers, they go from the old status quo to the cloud. And the whole market is stuck there. Half the market is in the old status quo, and the other half has gone to the cloud. And they stop there. They think, wow, it's like going to the new country, America, 100 years ago. I arrived in New York, and I sold a cow, and I killed my horse, and I'm in New York, and I'm done. This is where it starts. It starts when you get to the cloud. That's what we call beyond the cloud. So when I say beyond the cloud, it's the next release of HR or the next release of the business, the agile mindset of the evolving organizational business model and culture. Because there's new technology coming every quarter. So for instance, if you bought SuccessFactors 1 year ago, you're still four releases behind when you go live with it, etc., etc. So the whole market has been standing still here with implementing solutions now for 3 years, and they are 3 years behind in their implementations and realizing the business benefits of those solutions. And they still haven't integrated the old payroll systems in the back. So said that, they don't have the ability to create one truth data for their business. We call this running the company, and we call this change the company. So I think HR, they need to release as much time from running the company because it doesn't add any business value, and use those resources into changing the company. That is a skills transformation. And in order to have a skills transformation, you need to understand what people are able to do in the company and what they want to be able to do in the future. This is a lean approach, and it's an agile approach. Now, who are you trying to satisfy? HR has never received any money, ever, to do something. The only reason they had transferred to the cloud was because they didn't have these rooms. They have a foundation of water and plumbing and pipes, and carrying water from one house to the other to pay people water. But now suddenly you need a kitchen, talent management. You need a bedroom, onboarding. You need a living room, career planning. So they built all those rooms on top of a crappy foundation right now. And now everybody's screaming about the employee experience. They didn't get a business case for that. So when I implemented that, what are the business realizations? None. They just digitalized something that didn't exist before. So when you're going to go forward, you need to understand who you're satisfying. Well, first of all, you need to satisfy the law. I want to stay out of jail card. I want to make sure my CEO do not end up in jail for not doing compliance reporting. Outsource that. Doesn't add any business value at all. Next level. Engaged level, that is what HR wants to do. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to change anything because they have no money. They are stuck in that spider web. But HR needs to do something because the business wants to do something now. That's the next level. So now business is screaming on HR. So you need to do this, 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 this. And I asked PwC asked HR and business this fall what they thought about each other. And the HR said, I think I'm pretty good in career planning, so I'm 80% good. And then PwC said, no, they're not. They're 20% good. So whatever the answer was in every question, there was a gap. So where is right, there's a gap in perception. And that's where HR needs to close the productivity gap, skills gaps, or whatever gap, expectation gap. And in order to do that, they need money. The last one, and that's the big one, that's the matrix discussion. That is what the market tells you to do. Doesn't matter what you want to do. Doesn't matter what the business want to do. Whatever you're doing, you need to do something. You need to automate. And the automation agenda is driven by cost, right? So remember, what is HR doing it and who are they doing it for? Is it to satisfy the law, compliance? Get rid of it. If they want to satisfy themselves, fine, they should. That's a cost agenda. But above all, they need to ally with the business to become a partner. And what are they going to do with them, and how are they going to do that? So if you look at that, it's their own appetite to change that will define their agenda. So I would say majority of customers are getting to the second point. They're getting to the launch pad, what I call the cloud launch pad. You got to the heaven. You are meeting St. Peter. What am I going to do here? Do I want to go back to hell, or do I want to go into heaven? And you still need to catch up with those systems in behind. So beyond this level, HR has some choice, or the HR together with the HR has some choice. And that is getting to the cloud is not a destination, it is the starting point. And what can you do up there? Well, whatever you do, you need to make sure whoever these rooms that you built now, you bought the living room for each kid, but none of them are in the room. They don't even use the room. So let's use the room so the living room is not overcrowded with people, right? So you need to drive user adoption. Let's say you have 1,000 licenses for onboarding, but only 20 people are using it. Why is that? So if you close that onboarding gap for what you thought you're going to have, and that is a typical user adoption for new technology. So HR needs to create a stop do list and create a start do list. Stop doing that, start doing that. That's when it becomes a new release of yourself. And then stop doing something else and start doing something else again. And the levers they have to do in that is to look back on what are the business expectations of that and realize those. Because it's never, ever been more exciting and easy to be a hero in HR than it is right now. There's a huge opportunity here, so much money. Everything they're talking about out here, the technology providers, all goes back to the organizational capability. Jobs are a threat. However, we're talking about augmented intelligence. So technology and people are going to work together doing more, scale more together. So in order to master that, you need to understand what you want to do in the future. You're doing this today, I'm doing that tomorrow. How clear am I on that message? Today, HR barely collect that data. And the second thing is 40% of the workforce is not even employed by you. It's contingent, it's outsourced. It's like manpower people going in and out. And if you're in banking today, who acquire the most strategic skills for the bank? It's not the people who work there. It's the external people working for the CIO. So what if they leave? That is the best pipeline for people in the company. And nobody is sharing data about each other. The external workforce is managed by procurement, and the internal workforce is hopefully managed by HR. So the technology thing you can use here to become smarter is using smart automation in some kind of way and working with HR analytics. We saw the previous talker about that, and become a trusted advisor for the business. And on top of that, you can buy different point solutions, make the goodies, like decorating the bedroom. A bedroom look the same for a teenager as it is for retired persons, but they have different paintings on the wall, all right? Different carpets, different music. That's the experience. The room, that's a cloud solution. The electricity, the heating, that's the payroll. So the equation here for change, I jumped over that, was this one here, I forgot. So what I say to HR, and every time I talk to them, what are you going to do? This is where they start. Do you have a dashboard? No. Use this. If you don't have a dashboard, create something. Don't spend millions on making something. My baseline is, I have nothing. So 2 months later, you have this. So you're already a hero. But you need to fill this with something. What are the productivity targets we're looking for? Like, is it more outcome per employee, or is it innovation, or whatever it is? But you need to measure productivity. And you get productivity out of engaged in people who stay longer. So how do you drive engagement? There are 5 different drivers for engagement, from trusting the leadership to understand what you are doing, if you're included in all decisions, etc., blah, blah, blah. This collaboration thing. And retention is about sick leave, burnout, and ability to stay a little bit longer. So let's say everybody stayed like 1 year longer instead of 3 years to stay 4 years. There's huge intellectual capitalization on that time. So those are the things you're going to measure. Note, I have not put recruiting up there, because recruiting is a result of not keeping or developing the people you already have, right? It's not the end means by itself. You're not there to recruit people. You're there you already have. Now, the focus of HR has been cost and compliance, but I need to focus on clarity and capability and a fit culture. And I'm going to wrap up with these things here, but because if you look at clarity, ask anyone in your company, HR, CEO, and ask them, how many in the company understand what they're doing? Give me a figure, right? Oh, everybody knows that because they have job description. Yeah, but do they understand? Can they read? Like, do they really understand? From the CEO, you can have CEOs who are CEOs who doesn't understand the jobs. You can have a board who doesn't understand the board. I mean, look at the board today. Nobody understands digital disruptions. They don't understand the job. Everybody are CFO type of people. So that's not 100%. So is it 80? I mean, 10% are either in jail, sick, leaving, you know. So let's say it's 90%. That's a pretty good target. So 90% out of 1,000 people, that's 100 people, etc. Right? So we have 900 people out of 1,000 who understand what they're doing. Okay, given understand what they're doing, I understand my job fully. I'm one of the people who understand. Am I capable of doing my job? I'm not capable of doing my job. I consider myself very smart, self-driven. I'm not capable of doing my job for different reasons. Could be funding, mandate, ability to tell people to stop doing things, ability to force people to do other things. I'm not capable. I'm maybe 80% capable of doing. So let's say it's 80% times 80%. That means 64% of the people understand what they're doing and are capable of doing it. 64% of the population. That means there are like 36% who doesn't. And what's the cost of 36% of your workforce who do not do highest quality? Very simple metrics. So how do you understand if people are capable of doing the job? Ask them. That's the best thing of all. And then it goes down to whether your focus as a company is to run the company or change the company. But if nothing else, you can dwell on these KPIs. So if you look at the trip, leaving wherever you came from, like you're leaving Europe to go to America, fantastic company, blah, blah, the land of opportunities. So that is an overwhelming decision to do. It's how you're going to trust to take you across the water. And you go to the other, across the water, you land in New York, you know no one, and you're frustrated. Now, how can I build a family? How can I create family and make money in the new land? Then, of course, when you get mobilized, the first Planteers in that situation, they got optimistic, understand how to play the game in a new economy and all that thing. It's the same thing with HR in the HR transformation journey. They need to go from these uncertainty phases. And now, most of them are frustrated. They are either over here, overwhelmed, I don't dare to take the next step, or they're frustrated, I took the first step, and now what? They don't know where they're going, and don't know the means to take it to the next level. However, in order to survive, you need to go to the optimistic level and actually be able to fly yourself over in the company. So answering the question, what's your next step, HR, in your transformation journey, is that once you're in the cloud, there will always be a next step for an agile HR with new releases of the company. And you can regard yourself as a constant gardener who prune the organization all the time. I don't know if you do gardening here, but it's good if you take away the weed. And if a plant doesn't grow there, he or she might grow over there. So we are very fast of implementing a solution. But when you implement a solution, you need to update the playbook, how you work with that solution in our business model. You also need to understand that people need to transfer skills. And that's happening now with automation. What roles will be automated and what roles will not? Next one is, how can I redesign my organization? And using embedded analytics in everyday work in the company. These are real topics for HR. How can I innovate around the services I provide internally? As a father and mother in the house of my family, in those rooms, what kind of experience do I want to bring in that house? What are the rules? Etc. And I need to drive change. And this is something that's going to happen in a continued transformation. With every new release that comes along, in a never-ending journey, because that's the name of the game in the cloud. There are releases all the time. And the releases will be defined by what technology allows or enables and what the business demands for what they want to do as well. So I have 5 minutes to 3-4 minutes for questions.
So thank you, Sven. Applauses. Well,
Thank you.
It's a huge topic. It's a huge topic. And I have the first question, if I may ask. You're from Sweden, we found out, right? Not to Norway, to Sweden. Okay. So in Sweden, the companies and their human resource, are in the next step?
They're not. We did a workshop with MIT a year ago, And 10 of the 100 biggest companies were in that workshop, and they did a self-assessment. How ready are you to do this journey? They are overwhelmed, right? Even though they have implemented cloud solution and payroll, it was only Apple who was 100% optimistic because they are the disruptor, of course. But the other 9 companies, the biggest companies in Sweden, they say not even 50% prepared. And when you ask on a role basis, the most mobilized person was actually the CMO, the go-to-market people, followed by the CIO, and far away down the line is HR, which I think is sad. HR was maybe on 20-30% mobilized for this, mobilized to do something. So not okay.
So we can catch you. Yeah, from Latvia we can easily catch you. We're not so far back.
No.
Okay. Any more question for the Sven? I have the microphone here.
Anyway, I'm sorry for the sound. Thank you very much for your patience listening to me. I'm sorry I speak fast. You should meet my mother. If you want to hear anything of this more in detail, you can access the presentation on the web, I think. And there are supporting links for documentation. I promise you, if you don't know anything about this subject, if you just read all these blogs, that will take you pretty far. You have a very informed platform to take you to the next level. And good luck. And please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you very much.